We are told about the Germans that they are of mighty physique, incredible valor, and skill with weapons. The Gauls often could not even bear to look at them when they encountered the Germans. In battle, the Germans were fierce and ruthless. And now we had to fight them. In the year 61 BC, Ariovistus, the leader of the Suebi tribe and a king from the Germanic peoples, continued his tribe's migration from eastern Germania to the Marne and Rhine regions. Despite the fact that this migration encroached on the land of the Sequani tribe, they sought the allegiance of Ariovistus against the Aedui tribe. As a reward for his victory at the Battle of Magdeburg, the Sequani granted Ariovistus land in 61 BC. Ariovistus settled this land with 120,000 of his people. When an additional 24,000 Harudes joined his cause, he demanded that the Sequani provide him with more land to accommodate them. Rome was concerned about this demand because if the Sequani agreed, Ariovistus would have the ability to take over all of their land and attack the rest of Gaul. After Caesar's triumph over the Helvetii tribe, most of the Gallic tribes celebrated his victory and sought to gather in a general assembly. Diviciacus, the leader of the Aeduan government and representative for the Gallic delegation, expressed worries about Ariovistus' conquests and the hostages he had taken. Diviciacus demanded that Caesar defeat Ariovistus and eliminate the threat of a Germanic invasion. Otherwise, they would need to find refuge in a new land. Caesar had a responsibility to protect the long-standing alliance with the Aedui, and this proposal also presented an opportunity for Rome to expand its borders, strengthen loyalty within Caesar's army, and establish him as the commander of Rome's troops abroad.
I want to share the events that unfolded in 59 BC regarding Ariovistus and the Suebi tribe. At that time, the Senate had officially recognized Ariovistus as a king and friend of the Roman people. This declaration made it challenging for me to directly declare war on the Suebi tribe. However, I could not ignore the suffering the Aedui tribe had endured. I decided to take action by presenting an ultimatum to Ariovistus, demanding that no Germanic tribesman should cross the Rhine, and insisting on the safe return of Aedui hostages. Additionally, I sought the protection of the Aedui tribe and other allies of Rome. Ariovistus, in response, assured me that the Aedui hostages would remain unharmed as long as they continued to pay their yearly tribute. However, he made it clear that he considered both himself and the Romans as conquerors, implying that Rome had no authority over his actions. The situation further escalated when the Harudes attacked the Aedui tribe, and reports emerged that 100 clans of Suebi were attempting to cross the Rhine into Gaul. These developments provided me with the justification I needed to wage war against Ariovistus, which ultimately occurred in 58 BC.
He had marched for 3 days when he received news that Ariovistus and his forces were advancing towards Visantio, Besançon, the largest town of the Sequani. They had already covered a 3-day march from their own territory. Caesar recognized the urgent need to prevent this from happening. Vesantio possessed ample provisions for war, and its natural fortifications made it an advantageous base for military operations. Determined to secure this strategic location, Caesar pressed forward with forced marches day and night, successfully capturing the town and establishing a garrison there. During a halt near Vesantio, there was a panic among our troops and Gaul's traders. They claimed that the Germans were strong, brave, and skilled in warfare. This panic affected the intelligence and courage of our army, starting from the tribunes and commanders who had little experience in battle. Some sought permission to leave, while others stayed to avoid being seen as cowards. Even experienced soldiers and commanders began to show signs of fear and doubt, Some expressed concerns about the difficult terrain and lack of supplies. There were even claims that the soldiers would refuse to follow orders.
Observing this, I called a war council and assembled the centurions of all ranks. I reprimanded them sternly for questioning the direction and purpose of our campaign. I reminded them that Ariovistus had sought the friendship of Rome during my consulship, and I believed he would not reject our goodwill once our demands were made clear. Even if he foolishly chose to make war, I assured them there was nothing to fear. We had faced similar foes in the past, such as the Cimbri and Teutoni, and emerged victorious under the leadership of Gaius Marius. I urged them to have confidence in their courage and my competence. I reminded them that Ariovistus had defeated the Gauls through cunning and strategy rather than bravery, taking advantage of their fatigue and desperation. However, he did not underestimate our army's prowess, as they were not inexperienced barbarians. I assured them that the Sequani, Luci, and Lingans were supplying us with corn, and the fields had ripe crops. As for the soldiers' alleged disobedience, I brushed it off, confident in the loyalty and bravery. To test their dedication, I announced that we would break camp in the 4th watch of the following night. I stated that even if no one else followed, I would march with the 10th Legion alone.
By delivering this speech, the troops' morale changed significantly. They became eager and ready for active service, with the 10th Legion being the first to express gratitude to Caesar for his confidence in them. Other legions reassured Caesar that they had not felt any doubt or fear, emphasizing that it was his role as the commander to decide the plan of campaign. Their explanation was accepted, and Diviciacus, a trusted ally, found a route that led the army through open terrain, taking a detour of over 50 miles. As promised, the march began in the 4th watch. After 7 consecutive days of marching, scouts reported that Ariovistus' forces were 24 miles away from our own. Prior to the battle, Caesar and Ariovistus held a parley.
I commenced my speech by acknowledging the favors and support bestowed upon Ariovistus by myself and the Senate. I then restated the demands that I had previously conveyed to his deputies. These demands included the prohibition of war against the Aedui and their allies, the return of the hostages, and, if it was not possible to repatriate any Germanic tribesmen, to at least prevent further crossings of the Rhine.
I provided an explanation for my actions, stating that I had crossed the Rhine River in response to the Gauls' request and with the hope of receiving rewards. The settlements I occupied in Gaul were granted to me by the native Gauls themselves, and the tribute I collected was a customary practice during times of war. I emphasized that it was the Gauls who had initiated the attacks, and I had emerged victorious in those conflicts. If the Gauls truly desired peace, they should continue paying the tribute. While I expressed my desire for friendship with the Romans, I made it clear that this would only be possible if they agreed to my terms. Otherwise, I firmly stated that I would reject any offers of friendship. I denied having any aggressive intentions in bringing German troops to Gaul, asserting that I had come solely to defend myself. I questioned Caesar's motives for entering my territory and demanded that he withdraw his army. I warned that unless he left, I would consider him an enemy. In fact, I went as far as claiming that killing Caesar would please many Roman nobles and leaders who had sent messengers expressing their support for me.
After this, Ariovistus' cavalry began to pelt the Roman cavalry with stones and throwing weapons. Caesar broke off negotiations and ordered his men not to respond to provocation and to return to camp. The next day, Caesar sent his trusted men to the camp of the Ariovistus to continue negotiations. However, Ariovistus declared them to be spies and ordered them to be put in chains. After that, the sides changed their camp several times, trying to get a better position. Caesar positioned himself on the right wing after observing that the enemy's corresponding division was the least stable, and the battle commenced. The signal was given, troops launched a fierce attack on the enemy, who quickly and unexpectedly charged forward, leaving no time to throw spears. As a result, The throwing spears were discarded, and a close-quarters sword fight ensued. However, the Germans, true to their custom, quickly formed a solid mass and defended against our sword attacks. The left wing of the enemy's line was defeated and fled. But their right wing, due to their overwhelming numbers, continued to exert pressure on our line. Publius Crassus, a young commander of our cavalry, noticed this. He sent the third line to support struggling troops. Due to the intense attack, the entire Germanic formation shattered and started to retreat. According to Caesar, a significant portion of Ariovistus' massive army of 120,000 soldiers perished. Ariovistus himself, along with the surviving troops, managed to escape and cross the Rhine, vowing never to confront Rome in combat again. The Suebi, who had been encamped near the Rhine, also decided to return to their homeland. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new videos. See you soon.